Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Melissa Konanan, your discussant for this afternoon. My topic is about Section 3, the Southeast Asia in the era of the spice trade. This topic is under the Chapter 3, the Age of Exploration and Colonization. So the main ideas of this topic is first, the Portuguese occupied the Moluccas in search of spices, but were pushed out by the Dutch. And second, the arrival of the Europeans greatly impacted the Malay Peninsula. Now let's talk about the emerging mainland states in Southeast Asia. In 1500, mainland Southeast Asia was a relatively stable region. Throughout mainland Southeast Asia, from Burma in the west to Vietnam in the east, kingdoms with their own ethnic, linguistic, and cultural characteristics were being formed. Conflicts did erupt among the emerging states on the Southeast Asian mainland. The Thai peoples had secured their control over the lower Chao Phraya River valley, in which Chao Phraya River today remains the most important waterway for the people of central Thailand. The river is an important transport link for shipping of teak and rice to Bangkok. Locals have made the banks their home since ancient times and created their livelihood from its environment. Conflict between the Thai and the Burmese was bitter until a Burmese army sacked the Thai capital in 1767, forcing the Thai to create a new capital at Bangkok, farther to the south. Across the mountains to the east, the Vietnamese had begun their march to the south. By the end of the 15th century, they had subdued the rival state of Champa on the central coast. Then the Vietnamese gradually took control of the Mekong Delta from the Khmer. Where Mekong Delta is located in a critical economic region in southern Vietnam, and it is home to one of the most vibrant sources of life in southern Asia. This river experiences massive amounts of goods shipped in and out of its ports daily, and it is the agricultural lifeline of this region. When Vietnamese took control of the Mekong Delta from the Khmer by 1800, the Khmer monarchy had virtually disappeared. On the other hand, the situation was different in Malay Peninsula and the Indonesian archipelago. The area was gradually penetrated by Muslim merchants attracted to the growing spice trade. The creation of an Islamic trade network had political results as new states arose along the spice route. Islam was accepted first along the coast and then gradually moved inland. The major impact of Islam, however, came in the 15th century with the rise of the new sultanate at Malacca. Malacca owed its new power to its strategic location astride the strait of the same name, as well as to the rapid growth of the spice trade itself. Within a few years, Malacca had become the leading power in the region because of its strategic location in the spice trade and had a new sultanate. Muslim merchants affect the people of Southeast Asia because they created the Islam trade network, resulting in new states along the spice route. Let's proceed to the arrival of Europeans. In 1511, the Portuguese seized Malacca and soon occupied the Moluccas. Known to Europeans as the Spice Islands, the Moluccas were the chief source of the spices that had originally attracted the Portuguese to the Indian Ocean. Moluccas are also called the Spice Islands because due to the large number of aromatic plants that grew on this archipelago. Subsequently, the islands were an important strategic base for the highly profitable spice trade. Nutmeg and cloves largely drove the spice trade at that time. However, Portuguese set up small settlements along the coast which they used as trading posts or as way stations through the Spice Islands because they lacked in military and financial resources to impose their authority over broad areas. Next, the gunpowder and gunpowder empires. In the 10th century, gunpowder and guns were invented in China and spread to Europe and Southwest Asia in the 14th century. However, the full impact of gunpowder was not felt until after 1500. Between 1500 and 1650, the world experienced a dramatic increase in the manufacture of weapons based on gunpowder. Large-scale production of cannons was especially evident in Europe, the Ottoman Empire, India, and China. By 1650, guns were also being made in Korea, Japan, Thailand, Iran, and to a lesser extent in Africa. Firearms were a crucial element in the creation of new empires after 1500. Spaniards armed with firearms devastated the civilizations of the Aztec and Inca and carved out empires in Central and South America. The Ottoman Empire, the Mughal Empire in India, and Safavid Empire in Persia also owed much of their success in creating and maintaining their large empires to the use of new weapons. Historians have labeled these empires the gunpowder empires. The success of Europeans in creating new trade empires in the East owed much to the use of cannons as well. Portuguese ships armed with heavy guns that could sink enemy ships at a distance of 100 yards or 91 meters or more, easily defeated the lighter fleets of the Muslims in the Indian Ocean. Here's the picture of galleon. It is one of the galleons of Spanish with cannons. Then let's proceed to the ship in power. The situation changed with the arrival of the English and Dutch traders, who were better financed than were the Portuguese. The ship in power began in the early 1600s, where the Dutch seized a Portuguese fort in the Moluccas and then gradually pushed the Portuguese out of the spice trade. During the next 50 years, the Dutch occupied most of the Portuguese coastal forts along the trade routes throughout the Indian Ocean, including the island of Ceylon and Malacca. The aggressive Dutch traders drove the English traders out of the spice market, reducing the English influence to a single port on the southern coast of Sumatra. Where Sumatra has some of Indonesia's richest oil fields, its finest coal fields, and deposits of gold and silver. Rubber and coffee are grown in Sumatra. Pepper, tea, sugarcane, and oil palms are also grown on plantations. The Dutch also began to consolidate their political and military control over the entire area. They tried to dominate the clove trade by limiting cultivation of the crop to one island, and forcing others to stop growing and trading the spice. Then the Dutch turned their attention to the island of Java, where they established a fort of Batavia in 1619. The purpose of the fort was to protect Dutch possessions in the east. Gradually, the Dutch brought the entire island under their control. Then let's talk about the impacts on the main island. Portuguese and then Dutch influence was mostly limited to the Malay Peninsula and the Indonesian archipelago. The arrival of the Europeans had less impact on the mainland Southeast Asia. The Portuguese established limited trade relations with several mainland states, including Thailand, Burma, Vietnam, and the remnants of the old Angkor Kingdom in Cambodia. By the early 17th century, other European nations had begun to compete actively for trade and missionary privileges. In general, the mainland states were able to unite and drive the Europeans out. In Vietnam, a civil war temporarily divided the country into two separate states, one in the south and one in the north. After their arrival in the mid-17th century, the European powers began to take sides in local politics. The Europeans also set up trading posts for their merchants. By the end of the 17th century, however, it had become clear that economic opportunities were limited. Most of the posts were abandoned at that time. French missionaries tried to stay, but their efforts were blocked by the authorities, who viewed converts to Catholicism as a threat to the prestige of the Vietnamese emperor. So the question, why were the mainland states better able to resist the European challenge than the states in the Malay Peninsula and the Indonesian archipelago? It is because the mainland states of Burma, Thailand, and Vietnam had begun to define themselves as distinct political entities. They had strong monarchies that resisted foreign intrusion. And also, why did Europeans have less of an impact on mainland Asia than on non-mainland states? The reason is that There was less political unity and economic opportunity on the non-mainland states because of wars, and the government did not allow them to convert the people to Catholicism. Moreover, these states were victims of their own resources. The spice trade there was enormously profitable. European merchants and rulers were determined to gain control of the sources of spices. Last topic is the religious and political system of Southeast Asia. Religious beliefs changed in Southeast Asia during the period from 1500 to 1800, particularly in the non-mainland states and the Philippines. Islam and Christianity were beginning to attract converts. Buddhism was advancing on the mainland, where it became dominant from Burma to Vietnam. Traditional beliefs survive and influence the new religions. The political systems in Southeast Asian states evolved into four styles of monarchy: the Buddhist kings, Javanese kings, Islamic sultans, and Vietnamese emperors, all adapted foreign models of government to local circumstances. First, the Buddhist style of kingship. It has become the chief form of government in the mainland states of Burma, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. In the Buddhist model, the king was considered superior to other human beings and served as the link between human society and the universe. Second, the Javanese style of kingship. It was rooted in the political traditions of India and shared many of the characteristics of the Buddhist system. Like Buddhist rulers, Javanese kings were believed to have a sacred quality, and they maintained the balance between the sacred and the material world. The royal palace was designed to represent the center of the universe. Rays spread outward to the corners of the realm. Third, the Islamic sultans were found on the Malay Peninsula and the small coastal states of the Indonesian archipelago. In the Islamic pattern, the head of state was a sultan. He was viewed as a mortal. Although he still possessed some special qualities, he was a defender of the faith and stopped his bureaucracy, or a body of non-elective government officials, mainly with aristocrats. Then the last styles of monarchy is Vietnamese. In Vietnam, kingship followed the Chinese model, like the Chinese emperor. The Vietnamese emperor ruled according to the teachings of Confucius. He was seen as a mortal appointed by heaven to rule because of his talent and virtue. He also served as the intermediary between heaven and earth. That would be all. Thank you for listening.